I'm Samia Johnson, bringing you a new way to think about the Muslims you know. Why do you think Muslims reject Jesus as the Son of God? God neither begets nor is begotten. This is what the Quran teaches. But what exactly do Muslims know about the term Son of God? Are they reading more into it, misinterpreting it, and thus fighting hard against it? That's what we will unveil today so that we can help our Muslim neighbors overcome this huge stumbling block that prevents them from believing in the Son of God, Jesus Christ. Author Ken Crockett wrote in his book, I Once Was Blind, But Now I Squint, the person who won't change his mind to line up with the truth will change the truth to line up with his mind. For centuries, people believed the sun revolved around the earth. They had proof the sun rose in the east and set in the west, and it looked so much smaller compared to our planet. Scientists flinched when Nicolaus Copernicus suggested the earth revolved around the sun. It never occurred to them that their perspective might be wrong. But then truth prevailed and people corrected their perspectives to line up with the facts. St. Augustine said, before God can deliver us, we must undeceive ourselves. Muslims need to be undeceived. They need to know the true meaning of why Jesus is the Son of God.
The expression Son of God has been used historically with an incorrect meaning. People misuse the term to serve their own beliefs. Human or part human offspring of deities are very common in other religions and mythologies. For example, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, Gilgamesh claimed to be of both human and divine descent. Another well-known son of a god and a human is Hercules. A great many pantheons included genealogies in which various gods descended from other gods, and so the term son of a god was applied to many deities. Throughout history, emperors and rulers in diverse cultures assumed titles that reflect their close relationship with deities. The title Son of Heaven was first used by the Emperor of China around 1000 BC. The first emperor of Japan, perhaps around 600 BC, was called Jimmu Tenno, which means the Son of Heaven. In ancient modern history, emperors used the title a Son of God. For example, Roman Emperor Augustus referred to himself as Divi Filius, meaning son of a god, as did Julius Caesar. In Greek mythology, Heracles and many other figures were considered sons of gods from Zeus. Around 360 BC, Alexander the Great implied he was a demigod by using the title son of Ammon Zeus. Almost 650 years after Christ's time, Muhammad, the founder of Islam, incorrectly believed that Christians claimed Jesus as the Son of God in the same way kings and emperors of the past claimed the title for themselves. That's why the phrase Son of God is so offensive to every Muslim. The idea of God having a son is considered blasphemous. Muslims are usually ready with a response. You hear them say, Allah is above all attributes that show any shortcomings. Allah does not need to be a father, so he cannot have a son. If Allah has a son, this means there is a being who is like him, and that is not acceptable. The Quran teaches that Allah is unique. He has not fathered anyone, nor was he fathered, and there is nothing comparable to him. Also, it is not befitting to the majesty of God that he should beget a son. Glory be to him. When he determines a matter, he only says to it, be, and it is. Sure, people have children, but not Allah. How could he be a father? Isa is the son of Mary, but definitely not the Son of God. Allah has a son? This is blasphemy.
There are two basic misunderstandings that lead Muslims to reject Jesus as the Son of God. They think Christians believe that Jesus came as the result of a physical relationship between God and Mary, and that Jesus was a human who became God. So if we deal with both misconceptions, we may help our Muslim friends realize that their supposition was incorrect all along. Let's start with the first Muslim misperception, that Jesus was born as the result of a physical union between God and Mary. Muslims always use the verse that I quoted in the beginning, which says, "He is Allah, the One, He begetteth not, nor was begotten." This verse clearly states that God has no children. He is not begotten and He does not beget sons. The Quran gives a reason for that in another verse. How can He have a child when there is for Him no consort or no partner? The problem with this verse and many others throughout the Quran is that Muhammad misunderstood what the term Son of God meant according to the Bible. He thought of son only in terms of sexual reproduction and concluded that Christians claim that God fathered a child with Mary. Believing that no holy being could be the result of a physical union, he denounced this Christian belief. Muhammad was unable to distinguish between Jesus as the Son of God and the Arab pagan belief that idols were the offspring of gods. In the 6th century, during Muhammad's time, there were 3 main idols in Mecca that were worshipped: Allat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. They were known as daughters of the supreme pagan god Hubal. Muhammad thought that Christians related to the Son of God in the same way the Arab pagans understood their idols. This was the reasoning behind the verse in Surah 9 that says, "The Christians say the Messiah is the Son of God. This is a saying from their mouths. May Allah destroy them. How are they deluded?" We must confirm to the Muslim that we reject the idea that God had a physical relationship with Mary. That is blasphemy for any Christian. Explain the father-son relationship between God the Father and Jesus Christ is achieved by the gracious choice of the Father and the faithful obedience and service of the Son, and not by creation, and certainly not by procreation. The second Muslim misconception is that Jesus was a human who became a god. Muslims think that Jesus was a human and Christians made him to be equal to God. The Quran states this in a conversation in Surah 5 when it says, "And when Allah will say, O Isa, son of Maryam, did you say to men, take me and my mother for 2 gods besides Allah? He, Isa, will say, Glory be to thee. It did not befit me that I should say what I had no right to say. If I had said it, thou wouldst indeed have known it." We must emphasize to our Muslim friend quite clearly that Jesus is not a man that became God, but God became man through Jesus Christ. The Bible says, by common confession, great is the mystery of godliness. He who was revealed in the flesh was vindicated in the spirit, seen by angels, proclaimed among the nations, believed on in the world, taken up in glory. So we believe that the eternal Son of God is one with the Father from all eternity, united to Him in one spirit. Here, the Muslim might ask, so did God stop being God when He was on earth for 33 years? Make sure to confirm that God did not give up being God in order to become man in the form of Jesus. When Jesus was on earth, God continued to be omnipresent. He was still everywhere. In fact, God spoke from heaven when Jesus was in the flesh. A voice came out of the cloud to tell the 3 disciples who were with Jesus on the mountain, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." It's important to confirm to the Muslim that Jesus existed before the beginning of time and that He appeared in the flesh at a certain historical time. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. I know it's not easy to explain why Jesus is called the Son of God, but once we make clear the 2 main misconceptions and confirm to the Muslim that we do not believe that Jesus was born as the result of a physical union between God and Mary, and we do not believe that Jesus was a man who became God, we will have covered a lot of ground. But we still need to answer one more important question that every Muslim will ask. I will unveil it right after this short break.
Muslims have lived in the Western world for centuries. As any new immigrants, they first tended to settle in the larger cities. But in the last few decades, as they have increased in number, Muslim families and businesses have started to move to suburbs and small towns. Immigration is the major factor for the growth of the Muslim population in any non-Islamic country. Muslims leave their home countries seeking the free world for higher education, a better quality of life, and a better future for their children. Once a Muslim settles in a new country, he opens the door for his siblings, extended family, and friends to immigrate. Birth rate is another factor for growth. The teachings of Islam encourage Muslims to have as many children as possible. Muhammad encouraged his followers to spread Islam and increase the Muslim population through childbearing. It is not uncommon for Muslim families to have 4 or more children, more than twice the average number of children in most European and American families. Another factor that serves the growth of Islam in the West is marriage between Western non-Muslim women and Muslim men. Quite often, Muslim men come to the West as students, on business or on tourist visas, with the intent to marry Western women to acquire legal citizenship. Thousands of non-Muslim women marry Muslim men each year, and most of them will eventually convert to Islam to please their husbands, keep their children, and save their marriage. A third main factor that helps Islam grow in the West is conversion. Muslim missionaries and clerics are very active in the West. They spread the religion in prisons, schools, colleges, and in special cultural events that they lavishly fund. Some mosques in North America and Europe report an average of 50 to 100 converts every year. Western Muslims are becoming major advocates in the mission of spreading Islam. These reports might be discouraging for you, but the good news is that millions of Muslims all over the world are experiencing the saving grace of Christ every day. God is using radio, TV, satellite, and the internet to penetrate hearts and bring salvation to the lost in the Islamic countries. Also, in the West, Muslims have the freedom, in many cases for the first time, to think for themselves. So we as Christ followers have a responsibility to witness to our Muslim neighbors. The Great Commission that Jesus gave us to be witnesses is a commandment we have to live and practice. Muslims are included in this commission, and God is bringing Muslims to live in our neighborhoods from all over the world. So what do we do? To reach Muslims, we have to learn about them, explore their doctrines, unveil their religious practices, and take a closer look at their culture and traditions. And then we can find out what we have in common with them so that we can build on it.